at the top of the hour. Welcome, everyone. This is, I'm going to say, the first doc-to-doc talk. Doc to doc, doctor to doctor. Oftentimes, I think that most people say, I'm just going to have to defer to my doctor, or I would like to hear what my doctor has to say, because we're learning. We want to learn some more about how this body functions, and we take advice and we take counsel. And I say, if you ever get in a situation where it is that you are compromised with a conversation called health and well-being, you want somebody to be an advocate for you. Well, this call, I'm hoping, is going to be maybe a call upon some advocacy for you to understand the power that lies within you. And the power that lies within you is critical. You are holistically put together by way of all types of communication. There is a divine way of communication that we kind of come to know about. So with that being said, this is Liddy Flom. I have been in this wellness arena for 43 years. My journey began as a result of my parents teaching and reading out of the Prevention magazine at the dinner table. And we learned things like pycnogenol when we were young. And, we thought that those were really cool words. And it would bring it to school and they would say, interesting, come back tomorrow with more information. And so we were always enlightened by the fact that, they were kind of curious about what we were talking about. And then fast forward, it was farm to table. Born and raised on a farm, we always had fresh food and fresh milk and things. And today, when we left home, it was, everything was containered and cartoned and, processed in a different way. Well, today we are living in a place and time where I think that a lot of us are asking ourselves, where do I get living food? How does this body produce life from a death or dead food scenario? And so we know that the supplementation industry became something that was critical. With that, I am not going to say any more tonight because this is really a doc-to-doc call. I am grateful that we have so many people already on this call tonight. Welcome, and grab a pen and grab some paper because it's going to be you starting to learn that power that lies within you. And I have the great privilege to share a great man that has been a go-to counsel for me as it is that I've been navigating through my own journey, but a man that I've come to know, love, and appreciate that has been insightful, educated, because he had his own journey, and I believe he's going to share a part of that journey tonight, that, when you know that you have a challenge, you have a choice. You have a choice to embrace it, to erase it, or resist it, which will persist. So we kind of have it like I have two ledgers, right? I have a ledger that's called liabilities, and I have ledgers that's called assets. Well, how can I take this liability and turn it into an asset? So I'm believing that you might start thinking that way, like it's only a temporary so-called liability. So Dr. Jerry Shaw, I am so grateful. I am so grateful for the fact that you're going to bring on another guest with you, Dr. Miller, and the two of you are going to dialogue tonight, and you're going to be able to deliver a message that's going to be hope and hope beyond hope for maybe some people, but give them the knowing of the power that lies within them. I am so grateful. Dr. Jerry Shaw, I'm going to hand the baton over to you and say thank you, partner, for being on this relay team. Thank you, Dr. Jerry.
Thank you, partner. Liddy, you are an amazing person to partner with because just your energy, your love for people, day in and day out, I see that in you. And when I call you, you're usually on with 1, 2, or 3 other people, and your heart just keeps expanding. And I see the changes you're making. And truly, we're on the threshold of a major paradigm shift. I feel it. I actually feel it in my bones. We are there. And I know that from working with a lot of allied health professionals, various people, MDs, NDs, homeopaths, um, Ayurvedic practitioners, OMDs, so that's traditional Chinese medicine practitioners. And working with these people, I know doctors are gravitating more and more toward root cause. What is the cause of all of the sickness in the world today, and why is it increasing? And we really, truly want to address it as a group, as professionals, rather than manage the symptoms. Because I think as a healthcare system, we've been indoctrinated or trained around managing the condition of poor health. And that's not a great paradigm. And that's a paradigm that actually is quite profitable, but it continues to perpetuate its own profit. And the best possible paradigm is to look for root cause, figure out what's going on, patch that leaky roof, as some doctors like to say, rather than just fix the drywall and put a new coat of paint on the water damage. You got to patch the leaky roof. And that's truly what finding the root cause is about. And the human organism and life in general, it's a very complicated thing. It's very difficult even for us to grasp mentally. Like in medicine, we tend to subspecialize because it's just easier to get your head around a particular specialty. And it's easier to imagine that, you want to focus on orthopedics, so you're looking at the bones or the gastrointestinal tract or the nervous system or because you can focus on one thing and maybe it's a little easier. But the reality is you get further and further away from being able to see the forest for the trees, because traditionally doctors, and by the way, doctor originally meant teacher. Doctors actually taught patients how to stay well. And traditionally, they understood that we are an integral part of nature. And nature is a complex mechanism keeping itself balanced. And we are within that system, attempting to keep ourselves balanced. So every traditional form of medicine looked at how is this getting out of balance and how can we help assist it bringing it back into balance. And that was medicine for thousands of years, is looking at this human organism and attempting to bring it back into balance, because the respect was there. The respect for this organism was huge. It is amazing. It's brilliant. It is truly miraculous. I like to call it the miracle within. And you support that miracle within, and miracles do happen. And we get away from that because we start looking for that silver bullet, that linchpin, that thing that you can maybe charge more money for. And so in mainstream medicine, it was, if we could find this substance and then we patent it, and then we own it, then we can charge a lot of money for it. So the bottom line and the paradigm actually gravitated more and more and more towards paying for itself, paying for the research and paying for everything else based upon all of these mechanisms of trying to figure out these little tricks, let's say, to bring something out in this human organism. But what ended up happening as we got further and further away from our nature, got further and further away from respecting what we actually have and the brilliance of what we have. And so that my journey partly brought me into that major respect for this and figuring out ways to support it. And in doing that, I gravitated more and more toward whole food kinds of concepts. And you really have to look at the ancient wisdom, because in ancient times, there's something, they were just, I don't know, more perceptive. Maybe they did a lot of trial and error. I don't truly understand it, but I look at Chinese medicine or Ayurvedic medicine going back 5,000 years and more, and I stand in awe that they could figure those things out. How could they figure that out? And how does it maintain that ability to balance the person all through those thousands of years? And yet we call it alternative medicine. We call all of these natural, tried and proven over millennia techniques alternative. The reality is, currently in the modern world, the alternative medicine is this stuff that we're doing with these chemicals and trying to influence the body in some way rather than support it. So truly, we are on a paradigm shifting. We're in a paradigm shifting time, and we are at the forefront with Oliabo, because Oliabo has that ancient wisdom, and it's validated over and over and over again in the Mediterranean region with the olive botanicals. And of course, there's grapeseed extract, lycopene, rosemary extract, etc., but all native to the Mediterranean area. And it's so interesting that over the past, let's say 3 decades, maybe a little longer, we've talked about the Mediterranean diet being the diet, the most valuable diet for anti-aging and for disease prevention, but no one's able to really pin it down and describe it. How different is it from any other diet in any other locale, any other part of the globe? And it's not that much different in those local cuisines anywhere in the world. But how it's different was in the periphery, was in the nuances. It was in the herbs and botanicals that they used. And Joe and Gordon Morton figured that out by actually, because of their Italian heritage, and spending time there and talking with the locals and consistently hearing from the locals, it's the olive and the grape. And it wasn't something that was a fad. It wasn't a trend. It wasn't a health thing that they did for health at all. It's just what their parents did, and their parents before them for many, many generations and thousands of years. And it just didn't make sense to change anything because it worked. And I've been fortunate to visit the Mediterranean area many times, many different countries, coast of Spain, France, Italy, and Turkey. And there is a sense of ease in those countries. And I know that in many other parts of the world, including in the United States, that it's like more like dis-ease. And I think there's a combination of things that we can discuss tonight that help bring about that dis-ease. There's a domino effect. But the botanicals in the periphery of the diet of the Mediterranean area actually help them overcome the weakness of the diet, because it's nothing special. In fact, it's weak in many ways with a lot of the processed, pastas, lots of bread, lots of high lectin vegetables. Practically every vegetable they use is high in lectin. A little bit of wine is healthy, but a lot of wine tends to go the other direction, and they definitely go beyond a little bit. So it was real hard to pinpoint, where's the healthy part. But the healthy part, the nuances, the botanicals, actually help overcome the weakness that's inherent in that diet. So fortunately for us, it would help overcome the weakness of diets anywhere in the world, because we now have nailed down these botanicals. And Joe and Gordon, once upon finding this, dove into the research, and it blew their minds what they saw. And just to give a quick study, and then I'll bring on Dr. Miller, because I'm excited to do that and get into some discussions with him. But just a very quick 30,000-foot overview of some of the studies. If you just distill them down, it's mind-boggling. And we could spend hours talking about the studies and the results, but the Predimed study was done from 2003 to 2010, so that's significant. And there was 7,000 participants. So it wasn't a small study, this is a major study. And it showed a 31% reduction in risk of heart attack, 47% reduction in the risk of stroke. And cardiovascular disease is the #1 killer of people in the world today, and is actually escalating. In fact, the risk of stroke is actually going up these days. So 47%, that's almost half. The people on the olive botanicals, half the risk of the people in the control group. Type 2 diabetes, another disease that's been on the increase. It's surging since, let's say, the mid-90s for whatever reason. 52% reduction in risk. Again, way beyond any margins of error. That's huge. Another study, a Greek study called the EPIC study, that had 23,000 participants, and that showed a 14% reduction in all-cause mortality. And that went up remarkably if people actually included even either one extra lifestyle improvement, like going for a daily walk, and in some cases it increased it up to 80%. Mind-boggling. We have weight management, big issue in the world today. Lots of struggles with not only type 2 diabetes, but obesity. Weight management 200% better at achieving and maintaining an ideal weight than any other structured diet. 200% better. That's huge. And then cognitive health, 24 to 36% reduction in risk of cognitive health, things like dementia and Alzheimer's, et cetera. Pregnancy complications, 21% reduction in pregnancy complications. So on and on and on, it proves itself over and over in the studies. But we look at the populations, there's 2 blue zones really close to one another in the Mediterranean region, and that's described as a place where people live longer, consistently beyond 100 years, and the absence of disease is remarkable. So we have that long-term anecdotal evidence from generation after generation after generation, and now lined up with these scientific studies. It doesn't get any better than that. And we have many, many doctors that are looking to be more and more involved in root cause eradication rather than managing the sickness that we see today. And one of those people that is on the forefront of that, and actually strong believer in that, is Dr. Albert Miller. And recent introduction, Fifi Cheek introduced us, I don't know, now it probably goes back a couple of months, but just a brilliant individual. He graduated from the University of Cincinnati School of Medicine, board certified in family practice, in age management medicine, and he's very, very interested in regenerative medicine, these kinds of things, as you'll see when he speaks. But he's actively practicing in emergency medicine because he feels that that's where mainstream medicine actually excels, and I agree with him. If you get a car accident or you gunshot or whatever, or fall off a roof, you want to get rushed into the ER. You want those experts to take care of you. And Dr. Albert Miller is one of those experts, and we really appreciate you being here, Dr. Miller. And I'm looking forward to discussing with you. We had a brief discussion today, and I really, really loved what you said about the current paradigm, but I'll let you expound on that. Thank you for being here.
Well, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here and have this opportunity to share. I do want to ask one question. I'm using a new headset. Am I being heard okay?
It sounds a little metallic. Liddy, what's the sound like for you?
Okay.
It's too metallic. It's going to be hard to hear.
Yeah, a little hard to hear.
I'm going to turn it off. Give me 1 second.
Okay.
Better. Mm-hmm.
Okay, is that better?
Oh, that's perfect. That's great.
Okay. I wasn't sure if that was going to work, so that's why I wanted to test that out first before. And I'd like to start maybe with, and I'm going to come back to a few things that were mentioned already, but just a little bit about what I see as one of the problems with our healthcare system that I would love to see changed, and we all can influence that by educating other people about how to take care of themselves. First of all, the U.S. healthcare system is geared towards treating disease. And Jerry, you mentioned that the term doctor is teacher, and teaching people to stay well used to be the doctor's job, but anymore it's waiting until they get sick and then helping them manage those diseases. And with that, many of us think that the United States has the best healthcare system in the world. Well, we do have a good healthcare system, but some of the statistics that I want to share with you will maybe make you think that maybe we don't have the best healthcare system. First of all, life expectancy in the U.S. isn't even in the top 10 and hasn't been for years, isn't in the top 10 of the developed countries. We are right now 15, 16, and we kind of vary that. Now, there are a number of countries. But let's just look at what we spend per capita. I did a little research for this talk on the latest per capita, and the latest data I could come up with is the United States spent $12,500 per person. per year. The next lowest, or the next country is 9,000. And let's go down to, you mentioned some of the Mediterranean areas. So I'm going to pick Italy. They spent 3,600 per person. And there's something wrong with that picture. See, when you don't work at trying to stay healthy and stay well, then you're going to pay the price of trying to manage your sickness. And there's two ways of look at how we enjoy life. And one is, as I like to say, our lifespan. That is how long that space is between when we're born and when we die. And the other, which is way more important to me, is our health span. And that is the time that we are born until the time that we no longer enjoy health to where we can do everything we want to, where we can run and jump and play and be active cognitively. What we see, you mentioned the blue zones, they not only live longer in those zones, but they live healthier. So their lifespan and health span are closer together. In our country, we have a big gap. And my goal for myself, for the people that I teach and help manage their lives and their health, that's what I want for them. And that means taking supplements that support our cells at the cellular level, support our bodies at the cellular level. And we have a product here, Prima, that does that. It's a relatively new product. However, as Dr. Jerry mentioned earlier, how long has it been around? Longer than any of us have been alive here. And for decades and decades, those ingredients were consumed by people in the blue zone, and now we have the ability to have them spread around the world. So this is an opportunity that I'm going to avail myself of and share with as many people as I can. You also mentioned that our healthcare system is so subspecialized. It is, and it's good to have specialties. However, the most important thing to have a good, what if you will, way to manage your own health is to have a good primary care doctor that cares about you. And I started out in family practice, as you mentioned, Dr. Jerry, and I did enjoy that, but the time came when I got the feeling that what was wanted of me, what was expected of me, was not what I felt was best. And by that I mean insurance companies started to dictate how we treat people. And there was a time, it's actually not true anymore, but there was a time when insurance company paid doctors based on their ability to achieve certain goals that they felt were best. And I think that most of our healthcare system in the United States is set. The standards of care, the what is suggested is set by two big organizations or institutes, and that is the pharmaceutical industries and the manufacturers of durable medical equipment. When I was in medical school, physicians had much more individual power and less, quote, guidelines and protocols that they were supposed to follow. We physicians thought more and tried to do what is right for each individual patient and not the population so much. So we treated each patient as an individual. We looked at their needs, their risks, and channel those. So I think that's the direction that I would encourage all of you that are on here, is be responsible for your own health and do your own research. If you look at the ingredients, I'm sure all of you have gotten the same thing from Oleaba, and if you research oleocanthols, if you research grapeseed extract, lycopenes, and all of those products that you've got, you're going to find out that there's been many articles written to show their benefits and how they can support your health. And I'm going to share just a little bit about what this product has done for me. I started taking the product when it first came out, and I signed an NDA, as many people on this call I'm sure did also. I was, however, still, even though I did my research and it looked really great and was excited to use it, I was not keen on promoting it too much until I had some own personal experience. So 3 months after we were on the product, my wife and I both did our annual physical and screening, and my cholesterol was down 30 points while my HDL went up, and my CRP was less than 5. That's C-reactive protein. My wife did even better. Her cholesterol dropped about 40 points, and her HDL also went up. And what's even more surprising, because she's had some heart issues, we are both in our 70s, so we're in those years. Her CRP was below 5 also. That has never happened. Now, those are measurable numbers that are in the lab, but what we both felt, not immediately, but as we were into this, maybe between 2 and 4 weeks, we both started to feel like, wow, I just feel better. And I just remember things better and have more mental clarity. My wife said, I don't walk into another room so much and go, what did I come here for? What did I want? And I think the thing I notice the most is when I try to juggle 6, 7 patients at a time in the emergency room, and nurse asks, hey, can room 7 have water, or room 7 wants some medicine? I'm more likely to remember that person and not have to go back to my computer and figure out which one of those my 7 patients is she talking about. So that's just unmeasurable and invaluable things. One other thing that I've actually never mentioned, I don't think, to anybody here that, well, yes, I did mention this to Fifi, is I had some venous stasis changes, which are some of those things that people get on their legs that have had too many birthdays, like myself, a bunch of clusters of blood vessels, and sometimes they open and bleed a little bit. So I got rid of those with nutritional supplements before Prima was around. And what I continued those. However, I have weaned the product that and I won't say what it was, but the product that I used to resolve that, I have stopped, and they're perfectly fine. Nothing is coming back. So my next step is to, it's in process, that I will discontinue some of my other nutritional supplements, which I feel are probably not necessarily a duplication. In short order, as what Terry mentioned, I've always been interested in taking care of myself and doing it naturally. So it goes without saying that I've always spent a lot of money on vitamins, minerals, and supplements, and will do that the rest of my life. So, Jerry, I'll throw it back to you.
Yeah, perfect. I loved everything you said, but I want to pick up on where you left off. Because I was heavily involved in nutrition for over 40 years, I was taking, I would say, at least a dozen different supplements going into my taking Prima. And I started kind of realizing to myself, well, I don't feel like I need this one anymore. I don't feel like I need that one anymore. So now I'm down to 3. So only 3 others, and I'm sure I'm weeding those out as well. So it's an interesting thing. Already I'm saving money on what I was spending prior. So if people, when you talk with them and you talk about Prima and they think, oh, I'm taking this, and this, I don't want to take something else. I see Prima as foundational. And the way I describe that is we as a civilization, I think especially in industrialized countries, and especially here in the West, as agriculture turned more and more to chemicals rather than old techniques to recondition the soil and build the soil back so it has natural, a normal microbiome and all the various things break down and restore the nutrients in the soil. Instead of doing that, we wanted to speed it up and just use just the few chemical parts that actually makes the plant look good and grow fast. And so the soil became dead, and the plant grew faster and bigger and was easier to harvest, but it's weaker. And because it's weaker, it doesn't build into itself those things to protect itself from things like pests. So it requires more use of pesticides. So here's what's happening. To our food supply, and our food supply is our foundation. It's the things that we put in our body to help our body to rebuild itself, restore itself, to meet the requirements of the daily needs. It's been stripped of some of the vital nutrients, the things that are in the soil, like trace minerals, that are necessary building blocks and parts of certain mechanisms in the body, important mechanisms. Once we start losing those, which we have been, and you combine that with over chemicalized, and you get the herbicides, the very powerful herbicides on the crops, etc. Now you've got this weakened system that's being challenged even deeper with these toxins. And what happens, we saw clinically, most of these issues were starting in the gut. And the gut begins to break down. It's epithelial-like tissue. It's specialized, but it's epithelial-like. And so these toxins go down in there and disrupt and destroy and degrade, and eventually thin out the wall. And it's supposed to be semi-permeable, so the body can select what it needs and keep out what it doesn't want. And what ends up happening when it gets eroded to a certain point is that barrier becomes more permeable. And that is a problem, because now the selection becomes less, you're less capable of selecting, and large molecules sometimes get through. Things you don't want into the blood get through. What that does is activates the immune response. And the first thing are the macrophages, things like lymphocytes, leukocytes. So they run out and gobble it up, and it becomes what's called an antigen-antibody complex. It's this large molecule. Where does it go? It goes to the liver. The liver has to break it down. Well, the liver's already tasked with at least 300 functions, keeping all things about blood normal. It gets the lipids correct, the cholesterol correct. It creates precursors of those very macrophages and other immune cells. It creates precursors for metabolic pathways. Your steroid hormones or those precursors are made with these various sterols and lipids. And so the liver is working overtime doing all of this and keeping your body detoxified and storing the excess glucose as glycogen, etc. So it has a lot of things it's doing, and it ends up not being able to do it so well. So when that happens, then things of the blood get thrown off, possibly sugar, possibly lipids, these sorts of things. You end up on a medication. Well, the medication is necessary to control those levels, but it's one more thing for the liver to deal with. So you just see the dominoes begin to set up. Now with the immune system overworking all the time, Sometimes it gets a little weak on the macrophage level, so it sends out T cell. The T cell has the ability to build a template. It recognizes protein structures, and it does that so it can remember it. That's your adaptive immunity. And that is, if you're reacting to something, it'll remember it, so it'll always protect you from that thing. So that's your immunity. But what if that thing leaking through the gut wall is something you just eat all the time, like maybe dairy or wheat or something like that? Now that protein becomes an antigen. It becomes something that's in the blood that should not be, because the T cell's telling your body that it should not be there because it built a template for it. So now every time you eat that, you're reacting to it. So now you've got all these mechanisms happening inside your body, inside your blood, and it kind of runs down your energy because there's things happening that shouldn't be happening. And you're overworking in a lot of different systems. So things begin to, if you overwork, a system can only overwork so long before it breaks. And the system's amazing at being able to do what it does, but it can only do it so long. And in the T cell arena, there's another generation waiting as the T cells run a little thin, and there's a TH2, it's the second generation. They're not as discerning, don't recognize those protein patterns quite as well, and that's where autoimmunity becomes a risk. Because if it's similar in some way, it could react to your thyroid. And that's an autoimmune disease, Hashimoto's, let's say. Could react to connective tissues, so could be scleroderma, or lupus could begin to happen, inflammation. Could be reacting to some particular spinal cord pathway, and there's ALS or Parkinson's. And the incidence of autoimmune diseases has skyrocketed in the last 30, 40 years. And it's become a real big issue in the world today. And part of this are these mechanisms that are at play. And we can help prevent that by looking at, well, what's the cause? You look at the gut. And if you look at the oligobotanicals, one after another, Dr. Miller mentioned oleocanthal, there's oleuropein, there's riboscoside, there's tyrosol, hydroxytyrosol. There's 36 different phenols that are in these oligobotanicals. And each one has certain effects, and each one has a certain weakness. And they're different parts of the plant. Like the phenols connected with the high phenolic extra virgin olive oil have certain effects, and they're brilliant. But they might be a little weak where the phenols for the leaf, the oleuropein are strong, and the oleuropein are especially strong in areas like liver and kidney support. They actually have anti-tumor, antiviral, antibacterial effect as well. But each of these, my point is, each of these different phenols have certain strengths. And when you do the entire oligobotanicals in the Prima, you're getting an overlapping effect. So you're not missing any of these benefits. And that's the brilliance they've put behind this product. And adding grapeseed extract and lycopene is amazing because there's certain similarities to the effects. You can see that in the studies. And it just emphasizes it. And even with the gel caps, with the high phenolic extra virgin olive oil and the gel caps in Prima, they have rosemary extract. And it's actually a synergist with that. So there's a lot of brilliance connected with this. And I think, like Dr. Miller and his wife experienced, over time, we'll see great things. With physical examinations, with things like blood tests, we'll see this stress being taken away from our population, and people will be able to stay well because you're building back that foundation. You're building back those structures that are built into you, the miracle within, to help protect you from all of these assaults that we experience constantly in the world today. One thing that Lydia is really high on regarding the high phenolic extra virgin olive oil is it's actually the polyphenols activate the NRF2 pathway. And NRF2, it's some long name like nuclear factor, erythroid 2 related something. Anyway, it's a long term, but NRF2 it's a master transcription factor. It's a master regulator of cellular antioxidant and detox pathways. It actually activates the expression of over 1,000 genes, and it's involved in cellular defense, in detox, in metabolic pathways, in normalizing inflammation, in autophagy, that's where the old dead cells get eaten up, antioxidant, all of this. And it helps to prevent and protect from damage at a cellular level. It helps to control that damage. And it helps to activate renewal pathways. So that's like regeneration. So it's all of this signaling and activating that begins to happen. And it's activated by the high phenolic extra virgin olive oil, which, by the way, is almost impossible to find. And I know that because I worked with doctors 45 years ago that were using it and they had to order it. That company stopped, it was stopped, and I couldn't find it anywhere. And so there was this chasm of many years where I just could not find a really good quality. And I'm really happy now that we have a trusted quality that we have access to through Oliabo. It's fantastic. It's worth so much to me. But this NRF2, it definitely protects metabolic pathways. It's involved in cancer prevention, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, neurodegenerative disease, all of those diseases I mentioned that could be autoimmune in nature. It helps to build pathways to help protect from that. So there are things we can do. So when I talk about these mechanisms and these dominoes that fall, there are things we can do, and one of the most powerful things we can do is take Prima every day. And that's just a decision. It's a decision to begin doing the right thing for yourself. And if you find someone that says, oh, I just don't want to add another thing, this is the most important thing, in my opinion. You can sort through a lot of the other things that you're taking and eliminate them. Mm-hmm. Believe me, I'm doing it one by one. But this is the most important thing. So thank you, Doctor.
Yep, and this product is, as you had alluded earlier, it's going to lower my total supplement cost, not increase it. Although when I first started it, I continued some of those, but as time goes on, more and more of that is going to be better. And the other thing that I didn't mention is I mentioned energy, but on the measurement of that, I walk on a regular basis, and I usually try to do a fast-paced walk. I struggled to get to as close to a 15-minute mile walk as I possibly could, and in the heat of the summer, I couldn't usually get below 16, and sometimes not even that. I have gotten to where I've come down to about 13-minute mile, which means some running. And this old body hadn't let me run for quite a while. But just amazing things. And the other thing that I had also wanted to comment a little bit along the line of just good healthcare practices is if we get back to a more holistic, and the countries that do have a healthier lifespan that more closely approximates their life expectancy, more physical, they eat healthier. And so being physically active and learning to read labels, I think Lydia at the beginning mentioned that now we have more container foods, I think is what she called them. And that's so true. Those container foods are processed and contain so many additives to both make them taste better and to make us eat more of them so they can sell more of them, and for preservatives. So learn to read labels, educate yourself on things to avoid. But in general, eating more fresh fruits, vegetables, and avoiding processed foods as much as you can. And then when you do, learn to read labels. Whatever product you're going to go out there and pick up, compare the one with the least amount of ingredients on the ingredient list and especially when you get those ingredients that you can't even pronounce, you don't know what they are, those are what you want to avoid. And so I mentioned this before, and this is something that I often use because we as a society like snack foods. And one of the, and this is true on any food, but I'm going to pick up a potato chip. When you go to the store, the next time you go to the store, grab a Pringles can and read the ingredient list. And just walk down the aisle a little bit and grab a Kettle One potato chip and read the ingredient list. It'll be shocking. But you will find that on a lot of your foods that there is a healthy option and there is a less healthy option. So, but general terms, organic is better than, because we've got less of the pesticides and fertilizers. And I think, Dr. Jerry, you mentioned that we have less vitamins and minerals in our vegetables because of the soil being used for the same material over and over again, and they add fertilizers, not to mention the pesticides they spray on, and there is much less in the way of minerals that are absorbed and incorporated in the vegetables and fruits that we eat. So organic doesn't do that. So if you can buy organic, buy organic. If you can buy grass-fed animal products, much better. And most areas do have farms. We have where we live, where you can go to a local farmer that has only grass-fed animals that they process and sell. And we have a dairy farmer here also, only grass-fed cheese that we can get. So just food for thought. Keep your body healthy.
It's excellent.
Live happier.
I love that, and I love that you brought it up because we actually had a lady that gave a couple of different testimonials, I think her and her mother, earlier this week. And she was a sugar addict, and she just had to have sugar. And once she was on the Prima, she realized she wasn't craving it as much. And it's amazing what happens when the gut changes. And when the gut changes, you can knock back the bad populations of things like yeast, the candida, et cetera, that's sending signals to your brain telling you that you need sugar because they need sugar, not you. So you begin to quiet that down and you have less of a craving. And the other thing that happens, Dr. Miller, you mentioned eating more organic and, grass-fed, and people might think, but that's more expensive and we can't afford more. Well, here's the reality of it. You will actually end up eating less, and so you will end up saving money because those organically raised foods tend to be more nutritious. So there's something in your brain, I think it's connected with the hypothalamus, that's the satiety center, and that activates partly because you're just not getting the nutrients you need, so it keeps signaling you to eat. Because it's like this person's got to find some good food somewhere, so it just keeps telling you to eat, but you keep eating junk and it doesn't meet the needs or quiet down the satiety center, so you just keep eating. And that's expensive. But if you eat good, high-quality food, organic food that's high in nutrition, et cetera, take Prima, then the cravings quell down, you eat actually less, you achieve more of an ideal weight, you feel better. Life looks better. It's just a great improvement, but it involved a decision on your part to do the right thing and begin to take care of yourself and use these tools. And that's why we're here, to help educate you around these things, to help you understand how important it is. And I really, really appreciate that, your comments, Dr. Miller. If you have anything else you want to wrap up with, please go ahead again.
Well, I think I'm said pretty much what I wanted to say, other than just leaving with the words of wisdom is just change a little at a time if you find it difficult to do with eating healthier. Just get rid of one bad habit at a time, whether that's drinking sodas. And don't go to diet sodas and think they're healthier. They're not. So water is the best liquid, and you pick something that you want to try to improve on, and then do that for a month, and a month later try something else. Get rid of the next bad habit that you're willing to get rid of, and step by step is what it takes to get to good health. And habits are trained, so you can take those bad habits and slowly replace them with some newer and better habits. So.
I love the step-by-step analogy, because it makes me think of going for that walk. And remember that study, that just one lifestyle enhancement, like going for a daily walk, increased all-cause mortality reduction dramatically. So it's just one of the things we do. But if you're not feeling well, it's hard to go out for a walk. So it's a step-by-step thing. You start feeling a little better. You think, gosh, honey, let's go for a walk. These kind of things begin to happen. Let's go play some tennis. Life changes. And I think that's what we're about. We're about bringing back that more of that tradition and richness of life, that instead of having to vacation in the Mediterranean, we could actually bring it here and live like that here.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, that's the long-term picture. And it is a long-term picture. This is health and wellness supporting long-term. It's not a stimulant. It's not like, I took the Prima and I felt better instantly. That means that there's probably a stimulant in whatever product that was, and that means that's probably one you probably shouldn't take, because if you're already tired, the last thing you want to do is stimulate the system and make yourself more run down. So what this is doing is rebuilding for the long haul, or the big picture. And that's what I love.
Permanent change. That's what it is.
Absolutely. I think I hear Liddy coming on.
Well, I'm just going to say it's been a delight. I've taken some notes here. Lifespan, health span, support life at the cellular level. And I was just thinking about, what does prima mean in Italian? So I did a quick little research, and it says that prima means before, and primo means first. And so I know that everything that they're educating us with is a product that's called Prima. Before you do anything else, take Prima and make it the first thing, because you know what? When you begin to understand that this is the foundational conversation, this is your body's foundational communication. If everybody in the whole entire cellular world within you can communicate, then there is no misfiring, there's no dis-ease, there's no stress. The aging reduction begins to happen. Some people call that, anti-aging, anti-stress. Inflammation is dis-ease. Pain equals inflammation. You have pain, you have inflammation. So now we have some, common knowledge, direct connect. And here it is that we have the foundational delivery to be able to help your body create what is called a new state of homeostasis. That means new harmony, new balance. So your body actually responds in favor. And, we're 46 chromosomes. The olive tree is 46 chromosomes. I like to say this is a match made in heaven. Is it for us? Absolutely. All the elemental parts of it are here to, and we know through science, what Dr. Jerry just spoke about and Dr. Miller, talking about the master regulators of detoxification. And, you can read about these in terms of the abstracts. All of that which it is already here is in a little pillow pack called the Prima. And then we have olive oil, which is pure olive oil. actually you can take first thing in the morning, reset your gut. You can be taken last thing at night when you go to bed, and you can actually have it help eat that bacteria, help break that down that's in your mouth. Some of that bacteria that's growing there actually is damaging your heart. Know that a lot of heart attacks happen in the morning. So as it is that we begin to understand that here is something that I'm going to say, I believe that every single household will have what is called knowledge about Aliabo, because it is so affordable that you can almost, I'm going to say, hardly not have, because of the fact that it's going to make everything else work better. From the food that you eat, it's going to actually have better optimization of the quality. It will sort and abort and everything that actually is going on within the system. So, I wanted to just wrap up, this call to let you know that this call, Doc to Doc, I'm hoping gave you insightful information to show you how you can take control of your own destiny. And wherever there is dis-ease, it's sort of like that, dashboard on the car. We don't have a dashboard, but it is telling you something. That is where your cells are challenged. We do have awarenesses. If you're paying attention, you can actually do something topically. They have 2 products for topical, and that is a flex product that actually is specifically for pulling inflammation out of the area, and a topical. Our ancestors did poultices, and they would put these herbs and things together, put it in water, they boil it, they drink that, and they would apply that poultice topically, inside and outside. Whatever's showing up on the outside is going on in the inside. Dis-ease on the inside first will eventually show up on the outside. So the question is, how do you heal? I'm so grateful. I am so grateful that we actually have a product that we can get our hands on, and you can allow your body to optimize, thrive versus survive. You can take the Band-Aids off. I say peel them off, because the body's about to have a showdown. It's about to say, I got this. And so if we just embrace what is called the wisdom, you were born genius. My little grandson was talking to somebody in the grocery store one day, and he was dialoguing back and forth. He says, and that's not good things, Dr. Miller. He was looking at the word canola oil, and he said, that's not good food because it has canola oil in it. And she said, you're very smart. And she says, how do you know that? He said, I know that because it makes you sick. And he said, I think it's called rancid, and I know that I was born genius. And he was 5 years old. So I'm going to say this. If we can teach our children, and our children's children will actually be imprinted, and helping them understand that today is the first day of the rest of your life. Embrace the challenge to erase the challenge. And what you resist will persist. Look in the mirror and say, if it's to be, it's up to me. I invite you to get back in touch with the person that invited you, because the most important, event that happened tonight is that you were thought of and you were invited to be here. And the best gift that you in return gave is your presence, to be able to look at this and say, thank you for thinking of me. And I know that we're in this together. We win as we come together, and we know that we can actually impact generations to come. So again, Dr. Jerry, Dr. Miller, I am so grateful for what it is that you delivered tonight, to be able to be, on point, to say direct, making that direct connect. And your parting words, Dr. Jerry, Dr. Miller.
Just, Liddy, for me, I want people to think of the olive tree because it has the capacity to live for thousands of years. And the average age of the orchards in Europe are 400 to 600 years. And many of the trees are 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 years old. There's one that's between 4,000 to 5,000 years old. Imagine that. Imagine the time, what was happening on this planet 5,000 years ago. And there's something alive today, still producing fruit that was available then. It has something special. And that specialness, we can partake of. It's willing to share with us. And when we do, it benefits us as well. So we just have to pay attention. That's all. We just have to pay attention, period. Now, Dr. Miller?
My final words are take charge of your own health, be in control of your own life, and stay healthy. Feed each cell. Take your nutritional supplements. Eat healthy food. And be active, exercise both your body and your mind. And enjoy life.
Amen.
Blessings to all. Thank you again.
Thank you, Liddy.
You're welcome.